All right, party people, what's up? Today we are going to do an onboarding of a Rails project onto Coherence. I have a couple of tabs open already. I have the Getting Started guide from Ruby on Rails, the project itself. I have the Getting Started with Rails on Heroku guide, which Heroku is generally pretty well understood to be the best developer experience for deploying Rails, even still today. And it'll give us a chance to kind of compare and contrast what we have to do with Heroku versus Coherence. I've got the Coherence docs open for the Rails example. And the idea here is like you might not be starting a new project today. If you are, you'll be able to do exactly what I'm doing, but more likely you have a Rails project, be able to sort of see what the diff is between what you're doing today, which is probably based on one of these guides, and what you do to deploy this app onto GCP or AWS using Coherence. So go ahead and get started. Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is, usually I use Cloud Shell for these so that I don't install anything on my computer, but you could be using your local machine for this, no problem. So we'll wait for that to boot. We're going to make a new repository. Today's July 17, so July 17 demo. Rails setup for YouTube. We'll make this public, create it, and yeah, this is what we'll do once we get our repo going. Generally, I will go to my sites, just where I do all my projects. We are going to delete the last demo we did, which was July 14th. And we're going to close this down, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to follow along these docs. So, we can assume Rails is installed on Cloud Shell. You could follow these or these instructions to get Rails installed. I'm not going to call this my app. We're going to call this July 17 demo. All right, so we've got, this thing now. I think one important thing is that in config, Rails is going to save our master key, which is something we need to add as a variable in Coherence after we're done getting started here. So we'll cd into our folder. We don't need to create the database. Coherence is going to do all that for us. We don't need to bundle install. We do need to do some stuff similar to this. We're going to look at it in the Coherence docs, but we're going to take this for database.yml. I don't like all those comments in there for now. We're going to do this for our config host setting. We're going to do it in both development and production. If you have existing environments, if you have existing environments that you want to be careful with, obviously modify as needed here. We're happy to be helpful if you get in touch with any questions about this stuff. And what we're doing here, so this is going to be for AWS. We're going to do an onboarding on Google today. I did my last one on AWS, so I'd like to alternate. But this would allow the health check from an AWS internal IP, which is how the target group functionality that ECS uses inside of an AWS VPC works. And then we want to allow Coherence Dev and Coherence Sites URLs to talk to our application. Really, if this wasn't just a demo and copying from the docs, I would scope this down to like my tenant or even application name within these Coherence Dev and Coherence Sites URLs. And obviously add any custom domains I was going to configure later on. So yeah, be thoughtful about that. And then once we're through onboarding, we're going to add our secret key base that I already talked about here. So, if we look at git status now, right, this should have, all good looking stuff. I don't think there should be anything in log. Yeah, great. great. So we're going to follow along with GitHub. We're going to add everything and commit everything. Git add dot commit first commit. Pretty sure branch is already main, but can't really hurt. Remote push. All right, so now we're going to have our good looking, just generic Rails starter repo here. Now we're going to take it over to Coherence and we're going to get started. So the other thing we're going to need is make a new Google project here. We're going to use this July 14 demo Rails. I started trying to do one of these videos on 14th and didn't get through it, so we're going to pick up where we left off. I don't think there's anything in this project. Let's just make sure VPC is the first thing Coherence creates. So as long as we just see default, yeah, good, we didn't make anything. So yeah, we can go ahead and reuse this project. So we go to Coherence. This is our new, new user state. So you can play with the demo. Some of you might have done that already. These you don't have to do any onboarding. Just play around with the Coherence environment we provide. This will get you going to talk to us. We're happy to get started if you reach out. Or this is the flow to actually onboard a real application. So July 17 demo, GCP, put in our project ID. I can change the region. I'm going to just use US East. We're not going to make a new repo because we just did that. We do have some pre-templated, pre-configured repos here. Redwood React, Django React, but we're just going to paste this, and we're going to use the default branch of main. If we were onboarding a real repo that was already in an ongoing project, we might make a new branch called Coherence or something to onboard it with, so we don't have to mess anybody else's environment up. And then, we can always change that back to main or master or dev, production, whatever branch is relevant as the default later on. It's not my first time using Coherence, so I've installed in this Coherence platform demos. I'll show you what it looks like. A GitHub app for the Coherence platform, which is already installed for all repositories. So that's why this is green. If you were just showing up to Coherence, you would close some of these tabs. You would have to do that. And then each one of your users, you only do that once per app. And then each one of your users authorizes against that app. So it gets OAuth tokens scoped to the repos and permissions that the GitHub app has. I've done that as well. Install this application in Google Cloud. So this is a Coherence managed service account. You can see the email address, and I'm going to grant it owner access to my project. We don't actually check that it's owner, so you can create a more scoped down role, and we're happy to help with that if you reach out and collaborate on it. Depending on your application and what you're going to create, you need different permissions, but just do this to sort of keep it simple to get started. We're happy to help scope that down and make it tighter. And the last step is going to be to write our Coherence YAML, and we can see we don't have a YAML as part of our repo yet, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the Coherence validator to do that. So just take a minute to start up, and this is going to be a VS Code Cloud IDE environment that doesn't actually run our services. But it does give you an editor configured to the branch we set up during onboarding using the GitHub token to set up GitHub auth. And then it does have a validation binary that's going to let us test if our application is validly configured, which can help save some cycles when you go to deploy this to the cloud for the first time. So we're going to go ahead and make a new file called coherence.yaml. You can name this whatever you want. Right now you have to get in touch with us to change that name. We're working on exposing that setting, but it can be anything you like. And we have a Rails example of the Coherence YAML right here. Paste that in. Since I'm getting this straight from our docs and not changing anything, I know it's going to be valid. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to commit this. And you can also use the Git UI here. I'm going to use the VS Code GUI because it's nice. Coherence YAML. Push. And then if we go back to this page and we rescan, it should update and say it found this Rails service, which is just based on the service name, which you can change this to whatever you want. It's this type property we really care about the most. We do see it. So I'm going to close this validator. I'm going to go ahead and get started on this integration, and this will actually provision resources into my cloud. So I'm going to say that's okay and proceed. This will take not 20 minutes, but close to it, just because we are creating a database. That's one of the slowest operations in the cloud providers. So yeah, I'll pause this video and come back when this is hopefully done successfully in about 15, 20 minutes. Thanks. All right, so yeah, we can expand this job tasks list and see what happens. This succeeded in just 7 minutes, which is pretty good, including the SQL database and stuff. This modal automatically closes after it's successful. Anyway, we can see we just have the one environment for main, which is the branch we expected. There is this bug in our initial build submission that I'm not sure what happens, got to look into, but had it in the video last week too. And this is now, I'll just submit another one and we'll see what happens. Hopefully it will go from queued to submitted pretty soon. And yeah, here we go. We'll see if this works. Generally the initial image build is going to be the slowest. The caching of Docker layers will help speed it up once it's worked once, and we can follow the cloud build links and follow along with what's happening. Yeah, so we'll be waiting for this to work for a little while. And hopefully at the end of that, we have our first successful deployment. Actually, I would expect it's going to fail because we've not yet configured the secret keybase from this master key. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is now taking us to our review collection. This is where we add environment variables that are scoped to all the different branch environments we can create in Coherence. So we go back here to variables. We can see in our job history, that's the job we just did. Key base. We'll add that. And now if I go to this environment, we can see that this variable is inherited. I could override it and put a specific value just for this environment, only present in this environment and are not inherited. So this won't be shared by other environments on branches. This one will. So it's a pretty cool behavior. I'm actually going to go ahead and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel this build. And I'm going to submit another one so that we can get that variable included in it. Hopefully get a successful deploy at the end of it. And while we're waiting, we can even create a, we need a successful image build for that to work. Once that happens once, we can create a Cloud IDE and see that in action. Just take a minute for us to synchronize this status back, but it will do that eventually. And yeah, so now we're just waiting for this build, and I will come back and update when that's done.
All right, so it's a little bit later in clock time because I had a meeting in between, but this initial deployment after we added the variable was successful. I can go ahead and see that that SSL cert warning, by the way, is just us being extra paranoid about how long Google takes to provision certs, because this is totally fine. And yeah, I see a 404 from Rails, which is what I would expect. I could go to my Rails service in Google Cloud on the infrastructure tab of Coherence and see the logs here. So I see no route matches. That's my 404. And yeah, I think overall we are in, that's the 404. Overall, we're in, decent shape to, say this app is deployed. There's a lot more we can do here. Coherence has toolboxes, workspaces, which there's a lot of information about in our docs. The workspace would let us go in here and actually do development, add routes, use a dev server. That's gonna be pretty cool. I have shown that in some of the other demo videos that I've done. Maybe I'll hang around here if you want to stay, and I'll do a quick, I'll pull back that Heroku tutorial, and I'll add the welcome page with the time, just like it suggests, and redeploy it. But overall, this app is working and deployed. It has a database. It's running migrations. It has build pipelines running in Google Cloud. I could onboard it to AWS very easily. I've shown the variables functionality. So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff to do here. And when I'm done, I'm gonna go ahead and use the Coherence delete functionality to delete all the infra I deployed. So get in touch, let us know if you have any questions or anything we could help with. And if you wanna hang around and see the dev experience, this is what it looks like. I hit open and I get VS Code in the cloud. So, similar to GitHub Codespaces or Gitpod, products like that, this is actually running my dev servers in the background. I can see why that did not work as expected. CLI logs Rails. CLI is our coherent CLI binary that's automatically on all these places. So here, this might actually be working now. It just takes a second to boot up. So yeah, there's my Rails dev page. So this is a working environment. So let's go ahead, CLI exec Rails. Let's do this. I think I need to do this. I need to source the bash profile and then bundle exec. All right, and then I can go ahead and I can go to index HTML ARB, which is going to be an app. Welcome, new file, this. You put this time in. What is it supposed to be called? Index.html.arb file. Oh, unable to write. Okay, so a little thing I was warned about here. I need to chown, so I need to chown 3298 3298 at use welcome. Now I can index.html.arb. So because this welcome folder was created from inside the container, it doesn't have the right user ID, which would be fixed the next time I started the toolbox for that file anyway, but we do warn you about that right here. And then I can, in here, put this, and now if I go to, I need to do one more thing, add welcome index as the root on line 2 of my routes. Now if I hit this, I get my time. So look at that, and we could go ahead and use the, just like we could in the config checker. I have my git right here, so I can git add dot git commit dash add welcome view git push. So this will generate another build, which will update the deployment on the main site there. This will take hopefully less time than this to deploy the next time. We'll see how long the build takes, depending on the cache behavior of Nix packs. But this is working on my dev environment. So that's sort of the pure Coherence workflow, is you can actually go create new branches here, like, test one. This will create a branch for main. I use the Cloud IDE to do my development, which has the dev servers running and does things like database seeding, database migrations automatically. I test the feature using, every feature on Coherence gets one of these branch deployments on Google. And then I merge using my normal GitHub review and testing flow. We'll actually comment onto GitHub the PR environment and status, including tests and integration tests if they're part of the application configuration, and get all this information in Slack as well. And then we will, when you merge and delete that PR on GitHub, we'll automatically archive the feature and tear down the info so you're not paying for it. So yeah, all of that is already set up and happening with one configuration on Coherence. That's the big difference with the workspace from a separate product like GitHub or, Codespaces or Gitpod, is that, it's just this one Coherence YAML that I have to maintain. And I get across dev, CI/CD, including things like a database for tests and setting up integration test pipelines. I get all this managed for me across all these environment types, right? Full stack previews, production, everything, as I work through the real SDLC of a real application. So yeah, hopefully this helps you get your Rails app running on Coherence. And if you have any questions, feel free to ping us, support@withcoherence.com, or find us on Twitter or LinkedIn. So yeah, have a great day. Thanks.